one amazing series of YA novels, an insatiable thirst to relive the glory that is K.A. Applegate's literary masterpiece. This is Animorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. Animorphs number 11, The Forgotten.
Hello and welcome to the Dork-Bajir Chronicles, a Animorphs podcast where we read through the Animorphs series one book at a time, then talk about it every week. Today we'll be talking about Animorphs number 11, The Forgotten. My name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Braden, and you say I smoke the joint to get high? Oh boy, I sure do love this marijuana cigarette.
Hey, Grandpa, you're not supposed to eat the marijuana cigarette. That's not how it works.
I mean, if you're a
am
square, that's not how it works.
Yeah, what if you're a square dancer? Oh, segue into the book.
All right, everybody, it's time
Tessa
for that
with the
wrap
sickness.
up. We open up on the goof of this episode. Jake is square dancing like a tool with his cousin. By the way, I have to interject that the physics of the environment of this scene are very poorly laid out because like Rachel and Jake are having like full conversations while they're in the middle of this square dancing circle, and also the teacher is watching them and not being like, hey, stop, this is a class thing, don't do that. But then
Right?
also, Cassie is looking at them from the entrance to the gym or wherever they're dancing in, and is like laughing and giggling, but then Jake also has the ability to like reach over to her and grab her and get her in on this, and like nobody stops him, or it doesn't...
Rachel pulls her in, I thought.
I remember it as Jake.
You know,
Well,
this
we're gonna
is
have to fight about this.
This is really embarrassing fact about Tessa's life. I read this scene as a child, and I always thought that they were dancing in a classroom and they just pushed the desks to the side. Because I never went to school until grade 10. So I didn't even think that they would dance in gym as a real class. I was thinking this was some kind of, like, Dead Poets Society teacher who wants to get them really into the era of the history.
Maybe they go to like some swanky ass private school where they have like, you know, manageable class sizes.
Tobias was in this school, so I don't think it was private.
Yeah, that's true.
When you started in grade 10, and I'm assuming you had to do a gym class, right? Did they like kind of like set you aside at the end of the class and like, okay, you're gonna have to stick around for like 8 hours because you gotta make up for all your square dancing credits you missed?
They didn't do that, but see, that's because I went to school in Canada, not in nowhere USA.
Oh, so you think we didn't do square dancing in school? Because you are sorely mistaken.
I feel like
We
you
super
didn't.
did.
And
We did,
everyone thought
definitely.
it was dumb and boring.
Yeah.
Then half the class had to be square. Half of every square dancing class had to be dedicated to fucking around with that like giant parachute. That at
The
the end of
parachute
it,
was cool. I did a parachute in a gymnastics course once. That was a fun time. Anyway, I would just like to talk to the listeners out there if they're wondering why I suddenly sound like Mikhail during the intro.
Get out of here.
Because I am so sad and so tired. Nah, what it is I'm just really tired. So, great news for Braden is that I'm going to be interrupting him a lot less because I'm just going to be trying not to fall asleep.
Like right now.
Like right now.
Yeah. Anyway, we open up with Cassie telling Rachel and Jake, hey, Tobias is being real serious and saying we need to go see him as soon as possible. So they, as soon as they leave school, they go investigate a Safeway that Tobias says something weird is going down at. A bunch of high-ranking Yeerks are there. And they see, like, there's a big hole in it, there's skid marks in the parking lot, a fucking ship crashed there. Let's check that shit out. They morph into flies and they sneak in and they see that it's an experimental bug fighter that has crashed in this Safeway. I don't know how they realize this experiment. They just say like, "Oh, it looks slightly different." And like does Axe notice? Was that it?
He says it looks like an experimental thing.
Yeah.
He's the only one who knows anything about it. Also, plot-wise, it like never matters, even a little bit, that it's experimental.
I feel like this whole book couldn't have existed if it wasn't extra special experimental.
No.
Okay.
Because
maybe
how
that's their
else
excuse
would,
for like, why don't we just do Sario rips?
They
All the
just
time. Exactly.
fired 2 laser beams at each other.
Yeah.
That's true.
It
They
wasn't
had like a
because
Harry Potter moment.
It wasn't because the ship was special.
Maybe
the
ship was killed by the Blade ship. Or like the Blade ship attempted to kill the experimental bug fighter as a child. And now this is like 15 years later.
No.
And the magic that was imparted on the bug fighter.
By the blue fairy.
Exactly. No, nobody, no Harry Potter fans out there? It is an obscure book, I guess.
It's just,
Anyways.
I was homeschooled, Mikhail. I couldn't read this kind of witchcraft and wizardry.
Okay, anyways.
Harry Potter would be burned at the stake as a warlock.
I don't know Harry Potter. I only know Jerry Potter. Jerry Potter! Come up potions, Dad! Dad, it looked like a potions bottle.
Have you guys heard of that, essentially really weird Harry Potter fan fiction written by a middle-aged, like, evangelical mom who just went through all the Harry Potter books and just, like, made it, instead of being for witches and wizards, for young Christians?
Oh, I think I did hear about that.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And McGonagall and Dumbledore are married. Anyway, so they go down and they get in the ship, including Tobias, but they get spotted and they decide, fuck it, we're just gonna ride this bitch out. So they do. And and they escape some F-15s and they hear some radio chatter like, what the hell is that thing? How's it going so dang fast?
Yeah.
This is what
fighter
F
pilots are
fighters
Southern.
like. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That is what Independence Day taught me.
True.
They zoom up into space and they get into a skirmish with Visor 3's Blade ship. But when they fire their laser cannons, their Dracon beams hit each other, and this is. I don't think it does anything particularly spectacular.
Basically, there's like kind of a space explosion, and then now they're suddenly falling back towards Earth.
Yeah. And they're like, and Cassie's like, wait a minute, the sun's different. It was daytime and now, and it's like, you're noticing all this right now? This must be important to the plot. And they land.
Pretty much.
And
wake up.
spoiler alert, it was important to the plot.
They all wake up.
Sort of.
Completely uninjured, scattered across a jungle, which they quickly surmise must be somewhere in South America because the time of day, I think.
Well, the time of day,
Right.
and then also the fact that it was a jungle.
Yeah, right.
And I think Cassie looked at the landmass, and it was like, oh, this is South America that we're hurtling towards, and it's sunrise.
I thought it was like, it must be in the Western Hemisphere because of that. But wasn't there something else about the animals?
Yeah, they did crash. Yes.
Yeah.
I know there was a big conversation, and they keep asking Cassie, so where exactly are we? And she's like, I don't fucking know. I take care of cows.
But then
in
she's
my
also
dad's
like,
farm.
we're clearly in the Amazon. And they just accept
this
that,
is
which
true.
I guess doesn't matter either also, so.
Oh, by the way, up to and including this point, Jake has been having weird visions of seemingly unrelated, just like things having to do with jungles, though.
Like he's a monkey, and he's swinging through the trees.
Yeah, and it's at this point, Axe says, okay, the whole time of day thing and us crash landing here, I think firing 2 Dracon beams at each other ripped a hole in space-time called a Sriracha rip.
So I always call pronunciation station. Pronunciation station. Pew pew pew. Pronunciation station.
Nice.
You didn't join in on me with that one. That was a solo. Alright, so I always called it Sario Rip.
Oh, sorry.
I called it Mario Ripe.
With, like, I had the emphasis on the middle
Just gonna
syllable.
completely ignore that.
I called it a Sriracha Pip.
Yeah, I just ignore both of you. Basically,
I
the whole
called it
podcast is Tessa listening to herself.
I called it a Sicario Pier.
I called it a Lucario Blue Eyes White Dragon.
I called it a Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds.
I called it a yogurt that Jamie Lee Curtis uses to help her poop.
I called it a tobacco dip.
I called it
Ugh.
Gwyneth Paltrow Spamwalk.
Just Gwyneth Paltrow.
Huge. So we're not even trying to find words that rhyme with Sario Rip anymore?
No, we're
How do you
just
know it's
saying
Sario
goofy
Rip
shit.
that has to rhyme with that? How do you know it's not Sario Rip?
It could be Surreal Rip. In which case,
in the USA,
I call it a 3-0 Pip.
Surreal Rip.
I call it a Cheerio sip. Super cutting all of this out. It's really
Yeah, they realize they're forward in time, and they're like,
No, pause, Brayden, because we got a note about how hard-hitting the comedy was in that last segment.
Yeah, the dead air really
Cheerio sip. We were all so sad and like... Okay, anyway.
So they're in the jungle. They realize they have gone through a Sario Rip, and eventually they're just fight the blade ship. I'm just consulting notes. Crash land, Amazon, something's up. Time isn't quite right.
Oh yeah, so Axe, with his internal clock, he's like, oh, it appears to be 2 p.m. on the day. And they're like, wait, we left at 7 p.m. on that day. And then Jake starts having flashbacks of square dancing.
Yes. And then they realize, I don't know if Jake comes out of the time closet yet, but it's at this point he realizes that he's having visions of other times. So what they decide to do is they need to get away because the blade ship also crashed and Dork-Bajir are probably on their way right now and other controllers. And Tessa has a look on her face and it's
What?
hilarious.
No, I'm just trying to breathe out the corner of my mouth so you don't hear me going.
Oh, okay. I thought you just really wanted to interrupt. I thought you were going through withdrawals.
No, that's
What the
the face
listeners
I
don't
make
know
when I
is that, like,
podcast.
We run half marathons every time we record right before. Yeah. You gotta
Well,
stay
and
fit.
also I'm an asthmatic with bad knees, so I can't
in the
run.
tombstone.
She loves making this joke.
I walk. The
I know, I've heard it
marathon.
like 8 times.
That's because you saw our play 8 times. It was in the play.
You've said it on this show probably about 4 times, I think.
It's a very true fact about me is that I'm an asthmatic with bad knees.
So they decide, we can't use the blade ship, or not the blade ship, the bug ship. Axe, is there anything you can do to this bug ship to make it unflyable? And Axe is like, oh yeah, let me go inside. And they're like, oh wait, Axe, well, you can't stay behind, you might get injured. And Jake is like, I'm the leader. I gotta make a call. Axe, do the thing. And then everybody else rushes into the woods while Axe is like in the middle of the firing line.
Bad call.
And they immediately get like split up and they're running and it's like, you could have just like stayed and like peeked from the woods and like got his back. Jesus. You didn't have to keep running. And eventually they do hear like Dork-Bajir yelling about Andalites and they hear Axe like, help! This was a terrible idea! And then Jake decides to split the party further by morphing into battle morphs with him and Rachel, running out to these Dork-Bajir and leaving Cassie and Marco behind, and like immediately gets lost and like, oh fuck, everything's green. Even though I hear the Dork-Bajir and Axe, I can't find them. This was a terrible idea. He fights 2 Dork-Bajir, and then Tobias is like, hey, I'm up above. I see Rachel. You need to help her right now. And he goes, all these Dork-Bajir are dead and out of it. They're out of the battle. But Rachel is heavily injured and has fallen on top of an ant hill.
And she's unconscious.
She is unconscious in bear morph and being ripped apart by giant ants. And this is seriously the scariest fucking thing I've ever read. Because Jake is like, no, Rachel, please demorph so you don't get eaten alive by ants. And he's describing them like crawling into her ears and eyes. And it's like, Jesus Christ, this girl's gonna die. This child is gonna be fucking killed by ants.
To save his bear cousin, he rips off bloody pieces of her flesh and leads another ant hill to her so that the two ants can have a war on her dying body.
But he doesn't explain this to the others who show up, so they're like, oh my god, why are you just torturing Rachel while she dies?
Why are you pulling them off her? Tobias especially freaks out.
Yeah.
Because there are OTP alert! OTP alert!
No, Tobias and Rachel's not the OTP alert.
They're always an OTP alert, Mikhail.
They're always, though.
I have always disapproved of that relationship.
We know.
I have made
we know. Because
my
you're the
opinion clear on
Marco in your life, and you always wanted a Rachel.
Yeah.
So that's why you want Marco and Rachel to hook up, but it's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
Oh, but
It's
like
not
you guys
gonna
are
happen.
projecting all over Tobias and Rachel.
What the hell are you
I
talking
am nothing
about?
like Tobias or Rachel, excuse you.
the hell
My
are you
family
talking
You
life
guys
is
have
perfect.
you have said specifically that you related to Tobias a lot.
Yeah.
Along with like probably 90% of the fandom, which is fair, and I'm not shitting on Tobias. What I'm saying is he's bad for Rachel. Rachel's probably not bad for Tobias, honestly. Rachel's kind of amazing. But Tobias would ruin her life.
What do you mean?
I feel like
because
you got
he's a
it twisted,
bird?
dude.
Or
Because he would
he's
die.
just-
He would die when she's like 19 years old. That's why.
Oh, because he's a bird.
Because he's a bird. Also, he's like really brooding and stuff, and I'm pretty sure the only reason she likes him is because she wants to fix him.
No, I don't
No,
think
I think
so.
she likes him because he's got that sexy, ripping beak that can just eat mice.
And also pussy cats.
Okay, so Rachel wakes up and demorphs and jumps into a river, and for some reason
Yeah.
Jake follows her, and then they leave the river, and piranhas jump out of the river, snapping at them.
Yes. Yes.
And Rachel is just like paved down the whole jungle and put up a parking lot.
And everyone's like, this is literally the most miserable
nice.
day of our lives. Everything sucks. Why don't we just let ourselves die? Oh, also some like,
You okay with it?
I don't know if he's
Some,
uncomfortable or got really turned on.
He's a controller.
It's a controller. Get out.
Guys, no, it's even worse. I have to broach, racially sensitive topics.
Oh, right.
Because
natives.
We forgot to mention that some in indigenous folk in rags in waste rags that they specifically mention like, oh
Waste
gosh,
rags.
if we weren't scared for our lives, we'd all be really embarrassed to be seeing their dickers.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah,
that's verbatim what K. Applegate wrote.
Toss poison covered spears at them, and is it at this point they're ambushed again in quotation
Well,
marks?
at one point they morph into monkeys to like go through
Yeah,
the jungle
right,
because
right,
like,
yes.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
monkeys can move through the
Axe,
jungle.
yes,
I like
Axe
how
finds a monkey morph, and it's specifically
a
An
hot
attractive
monkey.
a
female.
hot lady monkey
Yeah.
morph.
Somebody wake me up when we get back to reality. Wake me up when we get back to reality. I
Wake
said
me
it
up.
twice because both Jake and Marco say that at the same time.
Wait, no. 3, 2, 1. Wake me up when we get back to reality. No,
Okay,
you said
cool.
it to Marco. I was being Marco.
What? I'm obviously the Marco in this relationship.
You be Marco. I'll
Okay.
be 3, 2, 1.
Wake me up when we get back to reality. Whoa!
Wait, so are you saying that, like, Brayden is the Jake of this relationship between you two?
Yes. I'm definitely more of a realist.
He's Big Jake who's bad at video games and basketball.
I am really great
So,
at video games.
Obviously, I'm the Marco. So, but, this is the notes that I'm reading now. They fight some Dork-Bajir, and Rachel nearly dies, so they morph Monkais to blend in.
Yeah.
Yeah, shut up. I spelled monkeys wrong in the
They
notes.
morph the monkeys
I'm the worst
and the
person in the
BGs
entire world.
to blend into the jungle.
And it fails utterly because a human controller just goes mad and is like, fuck it, shoot everything. And so they're just, all these Dork-Bajir are just shooting everything. And Cassie has an Earth Mother moment where she's like, we need to stop them. We can stop them. And everyone is like, we're gonna fucking die. Don't. And then
the reason is, this is a funny bit, the reason is because the Dork-Bajir controllers are asking the one struggling human controller who's like dying in this jungle heat to be like, yo, is this weird animal supposed to be in the jungle? And the human controller is like, I don't fucking know, I don't think so, kill it. So they're like, alright, it's obviously an Andalite bandit Animorph. And that's why he's blasting them all. It's because he doesn't know the jungle.
A snake whips out of a tree. A giant snake whips out of a tree and starts choking a Dork-Bajir to death. And then we realize it's Visor 3, and he's all pissed off like, guys, there are fucking engines. There are other ships around here that could blow up if we hit them. There's me? Morphed? You could have hit me? Do you want to fucking die? Because I'll kill you. I'll kill you right here, right now. Gosh damn it.
He's got a good point, which also brings up like the physics of the lasers, like the Draken beams, because it's like
where do they stop?
Yeah, like does it just leave the atmosphere once it hits the horizon? Like,
I feel like my idea is that it's so much energy gets expelled, and that energy is used in destroying however much stuff. So if you're shooting it at a bunch of paper, the Draken beam can go super far, but if you're shooting it at something more dense like concrete, it won't go as far because the energy will take more time.
Yeah, like a regular laser.
That's what I was thinking.
We should have a new segment, which is Tessa somehow explains desperately the technology of the Animorph series in the hopes that it won't ruin the illusion for her when she realizes how terrible it is.
Tessa's in denial. The Animorph series is flawless. Flawless.
Flawless.
That was terrible.
All right,
that was a terrible song. So they have to bring... Sorry, Braden.
They get away from these guys, and they, like, set down in a clearing, and they're like, okay, it's great to have a moment to great to have a moment to just sit down and talk and strategize, and, oh gosh, there's a dude with a spear behind you. Oh, there's a dude with a spear behind me? Oh dear. And then they sort of suss out.
And they saw them
these native guys.
And they're like, oh fuck, we're fucked if these natives are controllers.
Yeah. And then they're like, and it's like, why would the Yeerks?
It's not
like what's the strategic
obviously
advantage?
Wouldn't do. Like,
And then they're like speaking in a different language. And then Marco's like, I recognize some of these words. Yeah. It's Spanish adjacent.
I'm ethnic.
And they managed to suss out very simply that they're the leader of the natives is named Polo. And
no, it's like Paolo.
It says Polo.
Does it say Polo? I thought it was Paolo.
No, it's Polo.
My bad.
Definitely a 100% well-researched indigenous name.
Because they make a joke about the polo shirts. That's the only way I remembered.
Yes. And they very simply explain to these folks with drawings and like pointing at selves that they are monkey spirits and the big green guys are bad devils. And
that's the Dork-Bajir.
And you should hunt the devils.
And Jake talks to their leader, Polo, and is just like, yeah, we're gonna kill all the devils. Yeah. And he rubs out the Dork-Bajir drawing with his foot, and they laugh and have a handshake.
It's great. It's real great.
And Marco was like, I think he understood you. And Jake looks into Polo's eyes and says, he definitely understood me.
And then a ripping guitar solo happens, and like a weird, like green screen clouds come over them.
We're all one human race.
We're all in this together. The whole
You're a guy, I'm a guy. I turned into a monkey. We're all in this together. I promise to kill Dork-Bajir and stop them from killing your home.
Yes. So they have a break. And Axe says, like, and Jake describes these visions he's been having, and they start to wonder why he's the only one having them. And then Axe is like, yeah, but maybe... Never mind. And Jake is like, oh fuck, this is Andalite stuff. But I'm not gonna pry. It can't be
he does
important.
not push at all.
Yeah, no.
Axe Axe will tell me when he's ready. I trust him.
Just full of bad
They
decisions.
overhear, by the way, while they're hearing Visser 3 talk.
They find out by overhearing Visser 3 that in order for any of them to leave the jungle, they need both CPUs from the bug fighter and the blade ship. So,
Well, they need the ships.
no, they need the operating system from the ship.
Do they need the operating system, or do they just need both ships?
No, they don't. They need both ships, but they also need both CPUs. So Jake fucked
so they can make them work.
Jake fucked up in getting Axe to take out the CPU, which is like this baby little mini disc that he's wearing around his neck, Axe Monkey. And so he's like, fuck. So basically, Visser knows that we're gonna have to go in this one specific spot if we want to leave with him.
So they decide that they're just going to sneak over and into the blade ship so that when the Yerks take off, they can just go there. And they see them bringing over the bug ship. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, I see Visser 3 inside the ship, so we're safe out here. Okay, guys, what should we do? Oh, by the way, Axe, what was the thing you were worried about? Or do they bring that up later?
I feel like no, that's at the very end of the book, but it is at this point that they all morph into jaguars, which is the cover morph. And that's when Rachel, looking through the jaguar eyes, is like, oh, I changed my mind. The jungle is beautiful. We should save it.
Yeah.
I need to pause there for a second. What was the name of that animal, Tessa?
A jaguar?
A what?
Jaguar?
Okay.
Jaguar.
It's definitely
What did you think I was saying?
It's jaguar.
Yeah, jaguar.
Jaguar.
It's not jaguar.
That's what I'm saying.
Jaguar.
It's
It's jaguar.
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 It's only
Jaguar.
two syllables.
I'm saying the same.
Jaguar.
It's basically the same thing that I'm saying.
All right.
It's like bagel and bagel. Like it's very, very similar.
Let's hear some more
there
about
is a
these
cute moment.
jaguars.
Yeah, so they're jaguars.
Yes. There is a cute moment, though, where Cassie and Jake are just, like, having a sit down, and she's like, hey, I know you've only made bad decisions this whole trip, but you're a good leader, and we really all like you. Because this book needed to seem like Jake would feel better about himself at the end, even though he's just made terrible decisions all book.
So they're like, okay, we're gonna sneak onto the blade ship. We see Visser 3 is there, like the silhouette of him. So this is a great plan. Let's sneak aboard.
And then Jake realizes, wait a minute, why would they be bringing the ships together? They don't have the CPU. They can't make it work. Oh, it's to lure. They knew that we would head to the ships. They're luring us here. Oh, and that Visser 3 is like flickering, like a fucking hologram. Shit, we're dead.
And the tree that they're on starts to move, and it's a Letterthack. Creature from the Dork-Bajir home planet.
Yes.
Who is actually a super cool guy. He shows up later in
it's a dude? Like a thing?
Well, it's like a monster, but it shows up way later in a future book, and it's like, hey, I remember Letterthack. Favorite guy. He's basically a huge tree with a whole bunch of vines that will move around like Tangleon. He'll drop you in his mouth.
He captures everybody but Jake and like puts
eats them
in his monster mouth, but describes like, don't worry, I won't eat you yet, not till I have the fifth. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, do you have side gullets? Like a chipmunk cheek?
I feel like it's just that he's not gonna chew them, but they're suffocating. They scream in thought speak how they're suffocating.
Yeah, this is probably the nastiest vision of a Animorphs battle that I've had to deal with, at least.
So Jake morphs into a monkey.
Yes, and like
to swing around.
Oh, by the way, the Polo and his guys showed up and are spearing Dork-Bajir like motherfucking Far Cry 3.
And one of them, Jake calls to Polo, "The spear! Give me the spear!" And he gets a spear, and he throws it. As a monkey, he throws it into the Letterthack, as the Letterthack's vine arm
swings around his neck,
wraps around
hard
his
pause. Change of chapter. Jake wakes up, crashing outside of the Safeway.
Where they all met at the beginning of the book.
Smooth move, Jake. So what are we gonna do? Are we doing this, or what? And Jake is like, or what? Let's get out of here.
Definitely, or what? Let's go home.
Yeah, and then another hard stop, a chapter change. He describes how he told Axe about everything, and Axe is like, yeah, I kind of figured maybe one of we all had to die to
he
snap
talks
our consciousnesses back into one body.
Well, what happens is he talks to Axe about it, and Axe doesn't remember a thing and isn't really paying attention until he says Cheerio sip, because Axe is like, how the fuck do you know about Cheerio sips? I invented that in high school.
Right.
Mario Blip. And he's like, wow,
Rip.
well, you must have encountered a Sario Rip, because, like, how else will you know the word? And then he's like, alright, so I'm guessing all of us died, and you were the only one, you died the last, so that's why your consciousness was the one to snap back. So, you had to die. At one point, there was 2 of you on Earth, a monkey you being choked to death, and little boy you who was crashing as a peregrine falcon.
But if
you died.
So if he didn't die, it still would have been fine. Or sorry, if he did die, I mean, it would have been fine.
What I'm saying is he did die.
But the others didn't die?
No, I'm saying all of them died, but because Jake was the last to die, his consciousness was the only one to remember it.
So the whole
I don't
thing
think
was
they
pointless.
ever really explained that in context. But yes, this book was pointless.
It's not the most pointless Jake book in the series. You crazy
How can
readers
it get
will
more
remember.
pointless?
But
literally nothing happened.
This one's pretty bad. Basically, the whole B story is Jake, as Mikhail's got in here, Jake battles with his inability to lead. He makes bad call after bad call, and it's just like, well, fuck, and he keeps fucking up. And, yeah, he doesn't learn anything at the end of it, except that he gets some kind of mystical redo because it was a Cheerio sip.
Oh, also, Axe really, breaks from everything to say, by the way, any morphs you acquired in this book, you don't still have them.
Hey.
Because that was in a different timeline.
Hey, listeners and readers, Jake won't have those morphs. This is basically what he's saying.
No.
Yeah.
They're basically just like, oh, because the you that acquired them died, you won't have those morphs.
I feel like that wasn't Axe. That was K.A. Applegate explaining it to dumb YA novel readers.
Because eventually they morph monkeys at a different point, so it goes out of its way to be like, oh, we have to acquire these.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So some more bits is,
Axe has some really funny bits.
Some funny moments. Yeah,
Axe
he's
is a
not
funny
paying
dude.
attention in class because he's like making goo eyes at all the hot andalites.
At a hot female's smoking
Andalita.
Nose slits.
What are andalites into? Oh my god, her nose slits are so wide. I just want to put my eye stalks in them.
Look at him flare. Oh.
Her
baby.
hooves are
Tail
so
blade.
shiny.
Her tail blade is so sharp. I want to put that around my throat.
And then he gets to act out his teenage fantasy by morphing into a hot monkey.
Yeah.
And be like, hello, humans, I am now a hot monkey, just like you. It's nice, because his human self is such a gorm, but, you know.
He can morph like other things, right?
Just like you.
Yeah, but none of them are hot, Mikhail. I wonder if Axe masturbated as that hot monkey morph, though.
Oh man,
Oh
guys.
my God.
Spider monkeys? Okay. I'm so excited to talk about
Masturbation.
spider
Is that
monkeys.
one of the ones we're talking about, is spider monkeys?
No, because there's some pretty fucked up shit about female spider monkeys, but we'll get to it. Don't worry.
I'm so excited!
I'm ridiculously excited, Mikhail.
Okay.
I love that you take us on these disgusting sexual journeys.
We really explore, and find out new things about ourselves every episode. Here's a fact, a query for the group. Do you think Visser 3 or any of his controllers remember anything? Because assumedly they don't die.
That's true.
Right?
Especially Visser 3.
So what happens to them? Axe said that if, they didn't find a way to get back to their bodies, was that both copies would simultaneously not exist.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Does the series just end here and then it's smooth sailing for the rest?
Isn't it
Because
implied that
Visser 3 dies?
they get the CPU for the bug fighter and figure it out? Isn't that what
that
happens?
wasn't implied at all, I don't think.
Well, because they killed Jake.
They might figure...
They kill Jake, yeah, so they can get the CPU, but I don't know if there's any way of figuring it out. What do they do? Just surreal rip it back?
Well,
Yeah.
like, here's the thing, though, Tessa. Like you're thinking of this as, like, a work of fiction, as a piece of novella that needs to be cared about and
Cared about.
Excuse you, Animorphs needs to be cared about.
No, yeah, that's fine. But, like, K.A. Applegate gets real fucking tired. And, like, sometimes Kay just wants to come back from, like, a long-ass bender that she's spent, like, all of her books 1 through 10 money on and just not have to fucking deal with this shit, you know? Not have to deal. And so she just decides, you know what? Jake and the kids are safe. I don't give a shit what happened to Visit 3. And she sends it to her editor, and her editor is like, I think you should write some more stuff so that this works better. And she's like, I think I should send those pictures of you fucking a goat to your wife, Ronnie. And he's like, this is perfect. I'll never question your judgment again.
Yeah, I don't know. It really ties into my point that I had made at the beginning of our little note section there, which is like, I think I'm starting to accept the fact that, like, even though I thought of this as a sci-fi series going into it, I'm actually a lot better with it being like a fantasy space series. You know how Star Wars is like, oh, it's set in space. Is it sci-fi? Not really. It's fantasy, right?
No, it's Star Wars is
still
an opera.
sci-fi.
No, I don't think so.
Star Wars is a sci-fi opera.
I don't agree at all with that. I would say it's a fantasy book in that there's a lot of things that are not explained and don't need to be explained. Whereas I would say sci-fi is about explaining what is different about this world.
I feel like that's a very... No. Because there are still a lot of sci-fi that, like, don't explain that. Like
well, then
a lot of people, the typical is Star Trek, but, like, a lot of Star Trek is just, like, going to places and having the laser beams already and having the super fast ships and having the technology, but not, like, bothering to really explain it.
Yeah, but sci-fi, like, Star Trek is about, well, I'll say the original Star Trek series was about trying to understand space, and, like, even if, like, yeah, there was shit in it that they didn't, like, explain in detail, the spirit of it was, like, trying to explain the unexplainable. Whereas in Star Wars, it was like, hey, there's a lot of shit that nobody can fucking explain to you, but no one has a problem with that, and that's not even the point of the story. The point of the story is all these, like, magic and, like, human stories mixed together. Do you know what I mean? Star Trek, like, the explicit point of it was to explore the universe. Do you see the point I'm trying to make?
Yeah. I see the point you're trying to make. I still don't agree that it makes it not science fiction.
Well, then it should be like hard sci-fi and soft sci-fi. This is soft sci-fi.
This is definitely... I feel like it is still sci-fi, just even if it doesn't look like it, just in the fact that the authors have gone on the record several times saying that they wanted to write a sci-fi series for kids.
I don't want to, like, say it again, but the author is dead.
The author is dead.
Yeah.
No!
Yeah, that doesn't affect my opinion of it, really.
The author's still alive to me.
Well, should we wrap it all up with our predictions for next book, which, by the way, will be Animorphs #1, The First Journey, Brayden. Looking at the cover, I don't know, are you looking at the cover?
Yes.
Yep.
What do you
it
think?
says, the little words are, you have been chosen. You are the 6th Animorph. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah. I'm getting some very subtle hints, but I'm just gonna go all the way on it, and I'm gonna say, in this book, it is going to be, we are now the 6th Animorph.
Yep.
And, we have been chosen. And the big, like, question of this book, like, the stretch of it is, like, are we ready? Okay. Are we ready for this?
So how do you think?
You were going somewhere with that.
So wait, are you saying? So you're saying it's written in, like, second person the whole time? So first person is I,
Yes.
and third person is the person's name.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
these are like second person, just like by saying you. This is what you say.
Oh, you mean first person?
No, first person is what Animorphs is already written in, which is I.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Second person is you.
No, yeah, that makes sense.
So-
That makes sense. Yes.
In other words, you don't have any predictions at all.
I mean, what the hell? Like, obviously, we are going to be playing a character who is chosen to be a sixth Animorph. And it's supposed to be us, a surrogate. Apart from that, I think they're going to deliberately try to keep it away from the main story, because I don't imagine there's a sixth Animorph in any of the other books. I think this is
Gary
just
from
like a distraction.
Indiana chose to do this, so the entire series direction is going to change now.
I lied earlier. This is actually the first technical book that was ghost written. Tanya Alicia Martin, Applegate's series editor, is the one who wrote
This Alternamorph.
this first Alternamorphs.
I am expecting a trash fire, but that's okay.
Can I quickly say a little bit before we move on to our goodbye? At the top of this cover, it has all of the kids, and then there's 6, so there's 3 on each side, and there's a blank space in the middle for you. And you got your normal kids. You got Rachel, Cassie, Jake, Marco. And then you got Axe. The artwork that they have for him is pretty bad. And then over on the left, you got fucking Tobias,
Human size.
who looks like a teen in some really eerily detailed mascot uniform. We've been watching Mrs. Brown's Boys at our house here, and he looks like Dermot, who dresses up in mascot costumes for his work.
It's creepy. I don't know why they didn't do like a Megamorph thing
so
where he was
bad.
just small off to the side.
Yeah, that one was
Just like-
cool.
He wasn't in Human Morph, which they've done sometimes on the Tobias book covers.
Well, that was just for number 3 where he was, like, trapped.
Anyways, next week in our bi-weekly episode of Live from the Gardens, we'll be talking about the subtleties of the spider monkey and the jaguar. Then the following week, we'll be discussing Alternamorphs number 1, The First Journey. Until then, my name is Mikhail, the host.
I am Tessa, the expert.
I'm Braden, I'm hungering for the return.
And this has been Phantomorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. If you're looking for more Phantomorphs content, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for Phantomorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Good news, everyone!
Hello, and welcome to Good News, everyone, the weekly news podcast where all the news is good news. I'm Tessa.
And I'm Marina. On Good News, everyone, we talk about our week,
However good or good adjacent it was,
and we talk about the current events happening in the world.
but only the good ones.
Or good adjacent.
There's a lot of good adjacent.
The world's a literal dumpster fire.
Anyway, so sit back
Relax.
and enjoy some good news.
Available on collectivelegacy.org or wherever you download podcasts.
Bye! That sounded so good.
Brought to you by
Collective Legacy.
a podcast network.